Nobody's really talking about it yet, but the Seahawks might have just gotten one of the biggest advantages heading into next season. When you look at what the rest of the division has to deal with compared to Seattle, things are setting up a whole lot better than people expected. And the craziest part is, this team doesn't even look satisfied after winning it all. They're acting like they've still got something to prove, and honestly, that should scare the rest of the league. If you're hyped for this season, smash that like button and drop "Go Hawks" down in the comments so I know the real 12s are here watching with us. The Seattle Seahawks may have just caught one of the biggest breaks of the entire 2026 NFL season. And if you really look closely at the numbers, the projections, and what the rest of the NFC West is about to deal with, there is a very real argument that Seattle is in position to make another deep postseason run. According to the latest strength of schedule projections from Sharp Football Analysis, the Seahawks are sitting at 22nd in schedule difficulty heading into 2026, and for a reigning Super Bowl champion, that is almost shocking. Usually, when a team wins the Super Bowl, the NFL's schedule makers do them absolutely no favors. That is how the league creates balance. The best teams are supposed to get punished with harder opponents, while struggling franchises get lighter schedules in hopes of restoring parity across the league. But somehow, Seattle avoided the nightmare scenario that many people expected. Instead of landing inside the top 10 hardest schedules in football, the Seahawks are positioned just outside of it. And compared to what the Rams and Cardinals are about to go through, Seattle honestly looks like it came out of this in fantastic shape. What makes this even more interesting is how these projections are calculated. Sharp Football Analysis is not simply looking at records from last season. They are projecting future strength based on Vegas win totals, roster changes, coaching adjustments, free agency additions, and overall expectations entering the new year. That matters because it gives a more forward-looking picture of how dangerous teams are expected to be instead of relying on outdated standings. And according to those projections, Seattle is in a very manageable spot. Now think about what the Seahawks accomplished last season. They were not a team that people expected to dominate. They were not viewed as the powerhouse of the NFC entering the year. But they built an elite defense, they found consistency offensively, and they proved throughout the season that they could win in multiple ways. A lot of national voices tried to frame the Super Bowl run as some lucky streak, but people inside Seattle know exactly what this team became. This was not a fluke. This was a complete football team that developed into one of the most dangerous rosters in the NFL. And the scary part for the rest of the league is that Seattle may actually be better entering 2026. The roster continuity matters. The free agent re-signings matter. The draft additions matter. The signing of Dante Fowler Jr. matters. And, maybe most importantly, the confidence around Sam Darnold has completely changed the conversation nationally. There are still people outside Seattle who continue to talk about him like he is the same quarterback from years ago, but that version of Sam Darnold is gone. What the Seahawks have now is a quarterback who helped lead a championship-caliber team and who looks fully comfortable inside this offense. Then you look at Jaxon Smith-Njigba, and the excitement only grows stronger. There are people around this organization who genuinely believe he is the best offensive player in football. That is not exaggeration anymore. His ability to take over games changed everything for Seattle last season. And now, defenses are entering 2026 fully aware that they still may not have an answer for him. The most important detail in all of this, though, might actually be where Seattle's toughest games are being played. The Seahawks are getting several of their biggest matchups at home in Lumen Field, and that changes everything. The Chiefs come to Seattle, the Chargers come to Seattle, the Cowboys come to Seattle, the Bears come to Seattle, the Patriots come to Seattle. Those are games where the crowd can become a legitimate factor, and Seahawks fans know exactly how overwhelming that stadium can be when the energy is at its peak. Lumen Field has always been one of the hardest environments in football. But now, there is renewed belief around this team again. During the early part of Mike Macdonald's era, there were moments where Seattle still looked like it was trying to rediscover its identity at home. But that changed quickly. The Seahawks became dominant in their own building again, and opponents started struggling with communication, penalties, and momentum swings exactly like they used to during Seattle's best years. That is why this schedule matters so much. The Seahawks are not avoiding difficult opponents entirely. This is still going to be a challenging season. Road games against teams like the Eagles and Broncos are absolutely going to test them. Division games against the Rams and 49ers are always brutal, regardless of record. But compared to the punishment that some other contenders are about to face, Seattle has a legitimate pathway toward another top seed in the NFC. Now compare that to Arizona. The Cardinals are staring at what looks like an absolute disaster of a schedule. They already have to deal with playing Seattle, Los Angeles, and San Francisco twice each. But outside of the division, the matchups only get uglier. Road trips against the Chiefs and Chargers are brutal. A trip to Dallas is dangerous. Home games against Philadelphia, Denver, Detroit, and potentially a healthy Washington team create almost no breathing room anywhere on the schedule. There is a reason analysts are projecting Arizona near the bottom of the league. This is the type of schedule that can completely derail a season before it even gets going. Every week feels like a heavyweight fight, and unless the Cardinals dramatically outperform expectations, they could be staring at one of the worst records in football by the end of the year. Then there are the Rams. Los Angeles is still viewed as a dangerous football team, but their opponent list is absolutely loaded. Philadelphia, Tampa Bay, Washington, Denver, Buffalo, Green Bay, Kansas City, the Chargers, Dallas. There are almost no easy stretches for them. The Rams are talented enough to survive a difficult schedule better than Arizona, but even then, the physical toll of that lineup could become a major problem late in the season. And while San Francisco appears to have the easiest road among NFC West teams, even their situation is more complicated than people think. The 49ers benefit from technically finishing behind Seattle in the division structure, which helped lighten portions of their schedule. But there are still tricky matchups scattered throughout their year. The Eagles, Broncos, Vikings, and Commanders are all dangerous depending on health and momentum. Road games against Dallas and the Chargers are not automatic wins either. Still, when you put all four NFC West teams side by side, Seattle may quietly have the cleanest path to repeating as division champions. That is why the comments from Kay Adams created such a strong reaction recently. She openly pushed back against the idea that people should be doubting the Seahawks. And honestly, she may be one of the few national personalities fully recognizing what is happening here. Too many analysts are still acting like Seattle somehow stumbled into a championship run. Meanwhile, the Seahawks have improved the roster, strengthened the defense, added depth, and now enter a season with a schedule that could actually favor them. That combination is dangerous. The hunted versus hunter dynamic is real in the NFL. Last season, Seattle was surprising people every week. Nobody is going to overlook them anymore. Every opponent now understands they are facing the defending champions. But when you combine elite talent, home field advantage, continuity, and a manageable schedule, that is usually the formula for another serious Super Bowl run. And maybe the biggest reason Seahawks fans should feel optimistic is because this team still feels hungry. There is no sense of satisfaction coming out of last season. The moves they made this offseason show a franchise that believes another championship window is wide open right now. Mike Macdonald looks fully in control. The defense looks terrifying again. The offense looks explosive. And now the road ahead might not be nearly as brutal as many people expected. If the Seahawks take advantage of this opportunity early in the season, there is a real chance they could once again control the NFC by the time December arrives. And if that happens, the rest of the conference may realize too late that Seattle never went anywhere in the first place. Do you think the Seahawks got lucky with this schedule? Or do you believe this team is simply built to dominate the NFC again, no matter who stands in the way? The other part of this conversation that Seahawks fans should not ignore is how much confidence this organization suddenly has in itself compared to where things stood not too long ago. There was a period where people around the league questioned whether Seattle was truly built for long-term contention after the transition into the Mike Macdonald era. But now, the entire tone around the franchise has changed. You can feel it from the coaching staff, from the front office, and even from the national media members who are finally starting to admit they underestimated this roster. And honestly, one of the biggest advantages Seattle has going into 2026 is momentum. Championship teams that return with confidence and continuity are always dangerous, especially when they avoid the kind of brutal schedule that usually comes with winning a Super Bowl. That is exactly why this projection matters so much. The Seahawks are talented enough to beat anybody, but now they also have a path where they may not need to survive an impossible gauntlet every single week. That could become the difference between simply making the playoffs and securing another first-round bye in the NFC. And if Seattle starts fast, the pressure immediately shifts onto the rest of the division. Arizona already looks overwhelmed by its schedule. The Rams are going to be dragged through one of the toughest opponent lists in football. San Francisco may have an easier road on paper, but there are still major questions surrounding consistency and health there. Meanwhile, the Seahawks look stable, balanced, explosive, and motivated. That is why so many people inside the fan base are starting to believe another special season could be coming. The scary truth for the rest of the NFL is that Seattle may still not have peaked yet. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure you subscribe to the channel right now, hit that like button, and turn on notifications so you never miss Seahawks news as soon as it drops. And don't leave before clicking the video that's appearing on your screen right now, because that's where you'll find the next major Seahawks update and the latest news surrounding this team before anybody else. The best Seahawks coverage and the biggest updates all season long are right here.